Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleagues for that wonderful response, so perhaps I should simply sit down, which I will in just a few minutes. Mais j'aimerais premièrement exprimer mon...
I'd like to start by expressing my shock and horror with respect to the terrorist attack on the mosque in Quebec City. I'd like to extend my sincerest condolences to the families of those who were killed or injured.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I stand in this place for the last time, I naturally do so with mixed emotions. But having had a few days to think about it, I also believe that this China assignment is the perfect job for me. And I am grateful to the Prime Minister for his confidence. I'm going to Beijing with a great teammate, Nancy, my wife of 36 years. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I think she deserves your applause, if only because she's had to put up with me for 36 years. But Nancy will be a great partner, but she also has her life in Canada, and she, like I, will miss our 3 sons, so she will spend part of her time in Canada, but she will be a huge asset as well in China. Je suis content aussi.
I'm also happy to say that I'll be sharing this opportunity with the member for Saint Laurent. We were colleagues at university in Montreal, colleagues as members, as ministers, and now I'm very happy that we will remain colleagues at the ambassador level. So it's a great pleasure for me. Or maybe not. I guess we'll see. Maybe not. It's a mystery. We'll have to wait and see later.
Right along, Mr. Speaker. J'aimerais aussi remercier.
I'd also like to thank the people of Markham for their support over the past 6 elections. I thank my volunteers for their strong support over the years. No politician is better than his or her assistants, and I want to thank all of my assistants from the past and the present for their loyalty and the excellent work that they've done.
And I know, Mr. Speaker, that members from all parties will agree with me that Ali and Bernie and Lisa and Kyle and Kerry have all done fantastic work on immigration files, and I thank them very much. They haven't had to put up with me for 36 years, but 36 years, but 3 of them for more than 10, that being Hirsch and Lisa and Wendy, so I thank them all. I also know that you will equally well be served under my successor, and I want to really congratulate warmly the member from York Southwestern now that he has become the immigration minister. And you saw in question period today and yesterday and in his first press conference over the weekend that my successor is a quick study. He is doing a great job. He has a warm heart, and immigration is in good hands. Now, Mr. Speaker, as I look back over the last 16 years, I can think of some good times in this job and some not so good times, some pretty bad ones, actually. But I thought what I would do is that I would save my description of those bad times for my next speech in this chamber, which might be in some future life. And in terms of the good things, I only want to mention a couple. The fact of nominating Nelson Mandela to be an honorary citizen back in 2001. And in particular, the Syrian refugees. Certainement, je suis content.
I'm happy that we more than accomplished the task, and I thank the officials, the dedicated officials at the department, first and foremost.
That we got the job done. But, although that's good, but that at a time when so many countries around the world are closing their doors to refugees, ordinary Canadians across this land came out and welcomed our newcomers with open hearts, and that is what makes me very proud to be a Canadian. Il y a 3 jours, le Premier ministre.
3 days ago, the Prime Minister tweeted the following word: to those fleeing persecution, terror, and war, know that Canada will welcome you, regardless of your faith.
La diversité
Diversity is our strength, end of quote.
Very happily, Mr. Speaker, that when we came up with this refugee initiative, all of the opposition parties supported us. So I hope very much that in that same spirit, all of the opposition parties would support the sentiments expressed in that tweet, especially about irrespective of faith, because I believe very strongly that those sentiments reflect not just liberal values, but Canadian values. So, Mr. Speaker, I am going to China to work for broader and deeper ties between our two countries, with the ultimate objective of creating jobs and growth for middle-class Canadians. This is partly, but by no means exclusively, about free trade discussions. It being 2017, I know that a successful trading relationship must not only pass some economist test, but it must also be demonstrably job-creating and prosperity-creating for hardworking Canadians. And it is in that spirit that I will be offering my advice on trade with China to the government.
Canada and China have a strong friendship dating back to the 30s with Norman Bethune, John Diefenbaker, the export of wheat, Pierre Trudeau, and diplomatic recognition for China. And as we say in Mandarin, which means Canadians and Chinese are good friends.
Improve my Mandarin. But I would also say that when China and Canada disagree on something, and this sometimes happens, all 3 prime ministers that I have served have drawn on this friendship to speak respectfully but frankly to their Chinese counterparts. And I know, Mr. Speaker, that this long tradition will continue. One last thing about China. One of my jobs of any ambassador is to help vulnerable Canadians who have run into some kind of trouble in a foreign country, in this case, China, a little bit like refugees. So what I can do, Mr. Speaker, is to commit to you that I will work as hard as I can to help those vulnerable Canadians in China. That will be a very important part of my job. So in conclusion, and I'm not one of those ones who say in conclusion 17 times, this is the end. In conclusion, I will miss this place. And I didn't have anyone in mind who says that. So I will miss this place and all the people in it, from my closest colleagues to my severest critics. But they're usually not so severe and quite nice most of the time. So my final message to all of you as a collectivity is have the capacity to govern our country well and have the wisdom to make Canada even better in years to come. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
order.